Want to know how to take this unruly mess and turn it into this trendy flow? Then let's get started. We're going to start out by making sure the hair is fully saturated. This allows us to have full control of the hair when sectioning and cutting. We're going to start by finding the crown on their head and take the point of our comb and push it from the center of the crown all the way to their natural split in the front of their hair. When we're doing this, we want to make sure that we're following the natural growth pattern of the hair. Now, some people's natural growth pattern is not perfectly aligned with their recession point. So what we do to leave ourselves enough hair to style on top, we take an extra section from the apex of the head to the actual corner of their hair. After we pin the hair up, we're going to separate the back from the front of the hair. This section will be from the apex of the head all the way down to the mastoid bone. If you don't know where the mastoid bone is, comb the back of their hair away from their ear, and the bone that's sticking out behind the ear is the mastoid. Next, we're going to find the square point of the head, which would be the parietal ridge. To do this, we put the comb on the back of their head, and you want the comb to point straight up and down, and that'll show you where the parietal ridge is. From there, we'll take a small section, pull straight to our chest, and decide how much length we want to take off. We're going to cut and follow it all the way around the back of their head, and that'll be our guide for our graduation. Next, we're going to take diagonal backward sections and do a light graduation. What that means is we leave the hair that is closest to the top of their head slightly longer than the bottom of their hair. This is going to create the proper weight balance between the top of the hair and the bottom of the hair, so the hair flows nicely. Now you want to make sure you're staying clean and consistent with all these sections, making sure that none of them are any thicker than a comb's width. That'll ensure that there's no unevenness throughout the cut. You also want to make sure that you're pulling each of these sections straight out to your chest. That way you get the proper length with your guide throughout all these sections. You don't want to over direct any of these sections because that defeats the purpose of setting the base guide around the top of the head. Now you'll see when I get to the bottom of each of these sections, I'm slightly rounding in, and that's to make sure that the bottom of the hair is a little bit shorter than the rest of the cut. Now sometimes when you're pulling each of these sections out to cut them, the hair that you're not wanting to cut will start to fall into each section. Don't worry about it, just take your comb and resection it off so you stay clean and consistent. This will be our last section on this side. Once we get to the point of the crown, we'll flip to the other side and start working on our graduation going the opposite direction. Now, something I would stress to every beginner barber is to create a system of cutting that works with you. You can find different ways to cut hair, but as long as you can build a system for yourself, that'll keep you organized and it'll keep out all the guessing work of every haircut. So that you don't have to worry about whenever somebody comes in with a certain cut and they ask you for it, you don't have to start scrambling in your head, worried about what they're gonna or what to do. You'll just automatically know this is what I need to do to create this look. All right, now to float these sides into the back. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out the top of the hair that's on the parietal ridge. And you'll see that there's a guide from the back to the front, and all we're gonna do is follow that straight to the front of the hair. And that'll be our guide for the sides. Now what we're doing differently with the sides is we're gonna be doing a square layer. And the reason for that is my client's head is a little bit wider towards the center of his head. And so that gives his head a little bit more of a rounder shape. And what we want to do to combat that is give it a more square look. And so we're going to cut the hair straight up and down and use our guide to follow that. And what this is going to do is make the hair in the middle of his head shorter than the hair on the top and the bottom. This will give his hair enough length to flow into the back of his hair without keeping it too short on the sides. And with this final section, you can see I kind of angle it down just slightly to blend in that bottom length of his neck. We're going to do this on both sides. Next, we're going to split the hair on top of his head straight down the middle from his crown so that we can set our guide on the sides for the rest of the length on top. Now what you want to do now is find a reference point that you can match on both sides of the hair to set your first cut for your guide. I like to use the cheekbone as a solid reference point for middle parts because it usually allows the hair to bounce up around the eye to eyebrow level. Now what you want to do is pull the hair straight down to the floor until we reach the ear. When we get to his ear, that's when we're going to start elevating the back of his hair up so that it creates a softer look in the back, while keeping a good length in the front for the style. And we're going to do the exact same thing on both sides. Now that we've set our guide for the top, we'll pull the hair straight up in the front and you'll see that there's a peak in the middle. Now we'll just point cut from the short end to the other short end and we'll follow that all the way back. What point cutting does is it creates a shattered look to the hair, creating different lengths to give it a more feathered and softer look. Once we get past the ears, that's when we'll start to round off the corners so the back doesn't have a super heavy look. Now all we got to do is apply a matte product and start working it through the hair, making sure we get it from the root to the ends of the hair. We don't want something that has an insane amount of hold. We want something that'll have a nice loose but controlled style to it. Then all we do is throw the diffuser on the hair dryer and start drying the hair in a circular motion while scrunching the hair up. This will give it that textured, wavy, beachy look. Now a trick that I use to get a natural flowing curtain in the front is I'll move the hairdryer in a circular motion going forward towards the face and then backwards as we go. That'll dry the hair in a bent position, giving it that natural flow look. Sometimes I'll use the diffuser as almost like a brush to give it like a loose style, especially when I'm kind of brush the hair behind the ear and on top. Once you're all done, you're left with this super sick, beachy flow look. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Please hit that like button and subscribe to see more videos like this.